Yo, you are live.
I know. I was waiting for you to make the announcement. I appreciate it. So we got an awesome show today. Quick special thanks to everyone in the studio. I want to thank Kavar. I have to thank Q and Marcy especially for running around and doing everything. And we're going to give a special thanks to Wowie. Wowie went and picked up the food from Jesse Ray's. So big thanks to Jesse Ray's. Thank you, Wowie. So I want to thank everyone. Make sure you head over to kavar.com. Make sure you purchase some freedom at kavar.com. We got an awesome show today. I'm not over-caffeinated today. I'm feeling just about right. I know Q is over-caffeinated because he was completely bamboozled by the power of Strikeforce Energy the other day. So big thanks to Strikeforce Energy for sending us tons of these little concentrated packets. And Q thought he was slick because some of the concentration fell on his hand and he licked it, and he was awake for 3 days. So this is an awesome show. I have a really, I'll say, close mutual friend of mine. We've hung out, not a lot, but just enough, and we trained together, and we were members of some of the same gyms. But probably one of the obviously cooler chicks, and I only have the cool ones on the show, that hang around the gym and are involved with the UFC and participate. And we share a really close mutual friend, which is funny, which I just figured out kind of in the last 24 hours. So I'm really excited to hear her story. She's from Alaska. We know she's pro 2A. We know she's pro fighting for sure. And she loves to throw down. We got the one and only Gina MAZANY. So
Hey.
this is awesome. So I'm almost more excited about this one than almost any other female fighter we've had in, because you're really unique in that you come across as super energetic. You don't hold anything back. You have a lot of fire in your belly. When you're on the mat, everybody knows you're there. And even when you walk in here, you have an energy about you. How did you get to this point? How did you get involved with the UFC from Alaska? And where does all this energy come from?
Well, it comes straight from my belly.
There you go.
No, born and raised in Alaska. I started training up there, and because as a lot of people know, it's snowy most of the time there, and I spent a lot of time just training my butt off, and then moved to Seattle to get a degree in graphic design, pursued that, realized I still want to punch people in the face for money, packed up my car, sold all my stuff in my house, and got rid of all my cool adult benefits, and, started working at a bar in Vegas, and then eventually got the call to fight in the UFC.
It's kind of crazy, right? But serendipitous at the same time, because you're working and then you get this opportunity with the UFC. But it takes a lot of courage to kind of drop everything you're doing. And being in Seattle and Alaska, those aren't two places that, you wake up and the sun's just shining on your face and everything feels good. Because I lived in Montana, so I know what it's like to be in the cold and the miserableness. And I lived in the most miserable place in the universe in Boston. So everybody hates each other there. So it's
really a thing. Like when people say they have a bad attitude in Seattle, I'm like, not trying to down on it, but it's like when it's sunny out, it's a lot more motivating to do stuff and get out of bed.
And you got shot out of a cannon with the UFC. You had a lot of success in the beginning, and you were kind of thrust into it right away. How did that feel going from kind of, like you said, bartending to now you're kind of thrust in the fight mix and you're writing mid cards almost out of the gate, really?
My first fight was I got called on 16 days notice to fight Sarah McMahon, which at the time she was ranked number 7 in the world.
Right.
And she's a medalist, a wrestling Olympian. And I had to cut 27 pounds. And Misha Tate called me and said, "Gina, do you want this fight?" And I was like, hell yeah. And so I immediately hopped on the treadmill, started eating tilapia and broccoli when I could. And I came in overweight about 1.5 pounds. And I fought her, and it was a terrible weight cut. It was what I had to do to get in the door.
When you come in 1.5 pounds over, they give you a little time to lose that 1.5 pounds, or are you okay? Or does it become catch weight or what?
I genuinely just stopped sweating. Like I woke up the next day, had a little bit more. Actually, I had 1 pound. I think I had 2 pounds to go, and I was in the sauna for a good 3 hours maybe, and I just stopped sweating. I tried everything.
27 pounds. You couldn't lose 27 ounces.
Not with the donut.
Not with the donut.
What donut? The one on your shirt?
Not with the. So when we walked, I'm gonna say it.
Burn.
When we walked in the studio, right? Gina, first minute she meets Q. This is what I mean about taking over the room. Some chicks just have this ability and some don't. She looks at Q and she's like, "You get some pink on your shirt. you get some donut there. Why don't you clean that up? And he's like, ah, you know, it was like
I thought it was a pickup line.
Yeah,
and then I realized
it was a throwdown
yeah,
line.
it was.
Is that a donut in your shirt, or are you gonna
He's
share?
just happy to see me.
Seriously.
Happy to see me.
So did you notice the UFC dolls too, by the way, before I get back to
Yeah.
So I went to that UFC like everything's free sale. Like they're like, you know what I mean? Like where like the crazy chain smoking Asians are outside buying
Hell yeah.
everything. So I go to this deal and these dolls were like $1 a piece. And I was like, I have to get these dolls. Like they're just like cool little
They all have a disease though.
figurines.
They all have no acetol.
No acetol?
Yeah. Look at them. Oh, sorry guys. I made him kiss.
No.
I was just trying to show their butts. Or
When
what?
they do those
No
sales at the
butts.
UFC, it's hilarious. Just on a side note, you go there and there's people literally like filling their trunk to sell the stuff at flea markets. And we were talking about this, like we think this stuff's like all fake at flea markets. Like, oh, it's got to be like fake stuff. But they were buying like the legit stuff, like the boxing gloves. There's like 9,000 million pairs. And AG goes there and he's making he's buying like a whole wardrobe, a whole UFC wardrobe. It was hilarious. So another quick point that I have to point out is our mutual friend, Kat Zingano, who's awesome. And
Great
I've been chatting with quite a bit lately and picking her brain on a few things. She spoke very highly of you. And what I've noticed is when I asked around about you, everybody speaks very highly of you and you have a high
That's
energy.
So nice.
Yeah, no, it's true. And how do you keep that upbeat nature being you're from the frozen tundra, and I would imagine it's hard to stay excited for whatever it is you're doing, anything that's going on, because I lived in Montana. It's pitch black like 20 hours a day.
Right.
So how do you come here and you're just like, you're always smiling, you're always happy? How do you do that in the fight game and keep that type of composure?
Man, like life is hard as it is, and there's like enough crap going on in the world to ruin anyone's day. And if I can like make one person smile or laugh or, you know, feel upbeat about something, I'm totally down to do that. I guess maybe in my first life I should have been a clown or something, but especially in the fight world, it's really hard to keep a positive, upbeat, moving forward attitude because, you know, you win a fight, you take one step forward, you lose a fight, you take 5 steps back. That's just kind of is what it is. But at the same time, I'm super grateful I get to do what I love to do every day. And like some days I don't want to go to work, but I know that it's a goal I want to reach and, you know, do the best at. But hell, I've worked a 9-to-5 job and I didn't love that. I'm super grateful I just get to train all the time. And you know, everyone around me trains, and that's like I'm living my dream.
And I was talking to Coach about that the other day, and he said actually something really I want to pick your brain on. He said a lot of people can make a career out of the fight game. They don't have to be champions, and they can make a great little career out of the fight game. It depends how much they capitalize on their opportunities and how well they do. Do you feel like that's the case, or do you feel like you have to be the best of the best, or do you feel like you're kind of playing the long game? Because I think you can stick around doing it for a while. You have the right attitude. You don't approach it with a miserableness. You enjoy training. You're always, anytime I walk in the gym, which, you know, you're always there training. Do you feel like you're playing the long game a little bit in a sense, and you want to just kind of not go to work, like you said?
I mean, honestly, like I'm always training. I'm always ready. In the position that I'm in right now with the UFC and other fight promotions, is like I'm an open agent, and I'm hoping to get a fight. If I got a fight to fight in 2-3 weeks, I would take it. I'm ready for that. As for like a long run type thing, there is more I would like to do with the MMA career. I mean, obviously, ideally, I would love to be the champion, and that's always still my goal. And my goal always stays the same no matter what obstacle comes in front. But like I know sometimes, like, you know, shit happens. Like you can't always.
You hope for the best. You prepare for the worst.
Yeah, for
Always.
sure, and make the best of any situation. Like my last fight, I was doing good and everything was great, and then I got caught, and that shit happens. And
It happens all the time.
And you can't, you know.
Even Tim had a rough rub that last one. I was talking about that with Coach, and you know, everyone speaks highly of Tim, and he had kind of a you know, got caught, just a quick thing, and it's you got to move on. You got to pick up the pieces. It's how quick you turn the page that's going to define you. Now, of course, the UFC wants to see everybody be like studs and this and that and all this stuff, but do you feel like you are a little more strategic in your approach to how you handle your fight career? You're just not trying to be a rocket ship and take any match or take anything that comes your way. Do you feel like you're being a little more methodical in your choices now, because you were successful right out of the gate, and now you're kind of saying, you know, what's the next step? Where do I go from here? Where does this take me? you have to kind of think it through, and this is where you start to figure out if it's a career and where you're going to go with it.
Well, I mean, honestly, to this day, I still haven't said no to a fight. Every fight I've been offered, I've said yes to. So maybe that was my mistake in taking like tough opponents on short notice time. But like, I don't know, I did it, and here I am. But I don't know. Honestly, I have a lot of other ideas I want to pursue, and like some that aren't even fight related. But one thing specifically I want to work on more is kind of gear my what do you call it? My talent, my fighting talent. Gear it towards women like my age or like around here, just to be safe and not have to worry about, you know, I dare someone to grab me on the street, like in the sense that
the self-defense component kicks in, and it's like, you start wishing a motherfucker would, right, Q?
Yeah.
You
know? And because like, especially, I don't know, I feel like lately there's been a lot of terrible things, like Walt Harris's daughter absolutely broke my heart, and I hate that happened to them and their family, and I just don't ever want that to happen. And that's one thing I would love to share is how to defend yourself and how to feel safe I think that's just
was insane. That was what, Georgia?
I think it was Alabama. I don't remember.
I think it was Alabama. Walt Harris's daughter, she got kidnapped at Anaya.
It was awful.
Yeah, that was Alabama.
Was she kidnapped or just was it?
I think she was kidnapped. She was going to the gas station to literally buy a bag of chips.
And it was like, this always happens this way. It was like a mile from her house. It was something crazy.
And
it was kidnapping.
It made me sick.
So
like,
far, it's like 3 people involved, it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Do they know who it is yet?
They caught 2 of the guys.
They got 3.
3 of them? All 3? Okay, good. It's and the thing that sucks is like there's still...
He'll never get her back. He'll never get her back. And that was his stepdaughter, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. It was his stepdaughter. And he's fighting. Isn't he fighting soon?
He was supposed to be fighting. He pulled out, which understandably so. Like, there's no way.
I don't think anyone will fault him for that.
But honestly, and that's something I've wanted to do, but like having that happen lit a fire into my ass a little bit more, where I want to start somehow. I don't know where I'm going to start, but like I was like thinking about all the girls that work in Vegas and gorgeous girls that are, 100 pounds. I work at the clubs. Like what are they going to do?
Why don't you start a women's program?
That's what I was thinking about doing. But like
listen. Yeah, exactly. Marcy's volunteered. So like Marcy's at Syndicate, she's talked about doing it, and even Casey's like, I'd love to have a woman come in, and any of these coaches, I mean, Casey would be one of the best places to do it with because he understands what Abigail, and I mean, Extreme is Extreme, and it'd be great to do on there. It's just getting the mat time would be the hard part at Extreme, but like putting in a women's program, I mean, I think that's a no-brainer, and I think you'd make a great coach. But I don't. What's amazing is here. So when I lived in Montana, I actually I dated a black belt, and she ran the women's program. So, it's crazy because I haven't seen like a viable women's program out here. And we were talking about this the other day, Marcy, just the other day. There's no one running a good women's program out here in Vegas, and that blows my frickin' mind. Because to me, if a good fighter comes in and starts one and does a good curriculum, it's a license to print money, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, because who wouldn't sign up for that? Marcy, you'd sign up in a second. Yeah, there's so much opportunity, and I think a lot of people aren't looking at the opportunity that could still be for them in the fight game just by strategically setting themselves up for some local opportunities. It's all there. But yeah, I mean, self-defense is a huge component for women, and usually it starts with something that's happened to them, like were you ever attacked, grabbed, stabbed, beat up by a chick, beat up by a guy. Usually that's where it stems from, and women are kind of like, okay, they see the dark side of life.
Right.
And they change.
And that, and that's what the whole thing with Anaya just really, I just hate that happened to somebody that, I'm personally friends with and, know his wife, and like, it just makes me sick. And so
it's terrible.
With that, I just want more women to know how to protect themselves. Obviously I can't transfer everything that I've learned over the past 12 years to them, but I can, I have some tips and tricks to keep y'all safe. But
yeah, I mean, I'm a big advocate of, so the largest growing market, especially in concealed carry firearms, is women. No doubt about it. Absolutely zero doubt. Based on USCCA, I think it is, whatever it is, United States Concealed Carry Association, USCCA study. And then, of course, women's hunting and so on and so forth. But women's self-defense, it hasn't quite, it's translated down in the men, Gina, where the men are more complete, meaning they're taking blade classes, they're taking gun classes, they're taking jiu-jitsu. Like, my reason for doing jiu-jitsu isn't to go and compete in ADCCs or some shit like that. Besides, Nikki would beat me up. But it's more to do practice self-defense and just have good practices. And plus, when I go and train with the guys down in South Florida and wherever, jiu-jitsu is a huge component of the training, so I have to have some. And after I graduated GST in California, when took it Henner's course there, I developed a little bit further understanding of how it could be incorporated into self-defense. And I think just putting the curriculum or the right program in place, or having a program that gets women acclimated to taking self-defense courses, like whether it's like an ease into open mat or easing into the practice and stuff like that.
And it's so funny you said that, because you're like, the men, they practice. And with women, it's always do the self-defense seminar where you learn one day. It's a one-day thing, and they're like, yeah, and they're inspired. And then next week you forget half the stuff. And I think it'd be good I want to do like a 6-month program where you come and see me every Tuesday, and then so
Why don't you do the curriculum and just present it?
Yeah, I should do that. I'm kind of
Stop
worried.
talking
I have something kind of rough drawn up. I'm just.
Q and I will come in one day. We'll be the purse snatchers.
Oh,
we'll come in and we'll be like,
I know how to.
Give me that purse.
I'll throw some pink donuts to the side.
I'll be the angry black guy in that
Yeah,
alley.
we'll just do the purse snatcher component. Like, we'll be like, we have some special guest purse snatchers today. Yeah, that'd be so much fun.
I'm gonna have a fanny pack.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on,
God.
let's go.
That'd be amazing. I would love that. But I think you'd kill it. And I've been talking about this, but just do the curriculum. Stop talking about it.
Yeah, for sure. I've got something rough, but yeah, that's where the MMA, where I eventually want to transition, because one day obviously I want to make a baby and do reproduce and do girl stuff.
But what is it? I think you guys would know better, Marcy. I think it's like 12. You need a 12-week curriculum and then it recycles. So is it 6 weeks? Something like that. That's all it is. That's all. Like when you take a blue, like white belt to blue belt, I think that whole like basics course is like 12 weeks complete when you finish it, and then it recycles. So all you need is like 6 or 12 weeks.
Right.
And then you're just repeating it.
Yeah.
Do it Tuesdays and Thursdays, or some cut up like that, and you just lay it out, and it's real simple. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to see that around here. It's crazy because we were just talking about that the other day, and I talked about that with Coach the other day. You should call him. He's on the road to California. He's got 6 hours in the car.
I know, we're gonna meet him there.
Yeah,
it's Ontario, right?
Where the fuck he's going? Who knows? He'll be in the car all day. But that would be pretty badass for you, and I think that would be a really good fit, and I think you'd kill it at that. And I just having that around here. I mean, nobody has it, and it's crazy.
Right.
So all that stuff going on, you still have the fight game. So where are you going to go from here, and what are you going to do?
Well,
because I've heard all kinds of rumblings. I want you to set the record straight on what you're going to do, and is it going to be the UFC? Is it going to be something else maybe down the line? Is you going to stay put? You're going to fight another fight in the UFC? You're going to wait around? What are you going to do?
I mean, honestly, like I said, I'm a free agent. I fought out my contract. However, I'm still getting tested by USADA. So it's kind of like, I don't know. And
a waiting game takes some time.
Yeah, and honestly,
rush.
I think a lot of people don't realize that there's so many politics in the MMA game. Like, people who aren't involved in it, there's just so much politics to it. And so at this point, I'm kind of just looking for a fight. But in the meantime, helping Tim get ready for his fight.
Yeah, he had a quick turnaround. So.
Yeah, so I'm kind of, deep into that, but then I'm also training really hard at the same time. So, but honestly, like any fight, like I want to keep fighting. I love fighting, and it's just a matter of finding a fight. And I had a short notice fight through like 2 weeks ago, and I said I would take. They wanted it at 125, and I said I can make 133 because it's I would have been on 2-3 weeks notice, and the girl still said no. So and I understand, I get it, whatever, but. So it's just a matter of being ready and staying ready. And I mean, but like I said, I've never said no to an opponent. So it's just.
No. I think that's the way to be. I think you should be strategic, but at the same time, I think when you're hungry and you want to get out there and you want to keep hitting it, I think it's important to kind of, stay on the grind and keep your face out there. But the reality is you have to choose the right opportunities too, not any at certain points. Yeah. But I mean, you have time. I mean, time's on your side. It's okay every now and then to take a half a year, take 6 months, take some time and train, like a lot of my friends in bodybuilding when I was younger, that came up. The biggest thing a lot of them get criticized for is they never took time to let their bodies mature and to grow. And sometimes people take 6-8 months off and you develop your craft even more, and then when you come back in the game, you're 10 times better. So
that's crazy, because that's totally a thing what you're saying. Like, it's 100% a thing, because I've noticed in the past 6 months, like, my game has just excelled. I've just been hitting it hard with, honestly, with Coach Casey and, you know, all the people we have around us. And I feel like because when you have a fight in mind, you're kind of borderline always focusing on that one person that you're fighting, what they do. This is the first time where I'm able actually to focus on like what I'm going to do or what I'm doing.
And it becomes a chase, like you're chasing it. So you got to kind of break the cycle sometimes and take a little time, either it's 3 or 6 months, and you got a holiday coming up, so it's a good excuse to be like, you know, let's reboot this and revisit it a little bit later. It's
so hard though, because I'm the kind of, and it's funny because having Tim see it, but I'm the kind of person where I'm like, I always have to have something going on. Like I've been working since I was 15, like a job, and so the first time I ever got to quit that job was about 2 years ago. You know, when I was just 100% pursuing fighting, and I've been trying to cruise with it since then. But it's just it's a lot for me to be like, okay, Gina, chill.
Why don't you take like a bouncing job?
I've done that before. I used to work security.
Security at like
I did
at the bar. Like
when I was in Seattle, I worked at it's called the Show Box. It's like a pretty big concert venue. But yeah, I didn't do anything. I was surrounded by giant dudes who would just take care of me. But I was security.
You know what's interesting? I see a trend too coming. I was talking about this last night with Nikki Rod, and Nikki, you know, is doing these super fights and these Polaris and all these different things. And Luke Rockhold took a step back to go do a Polaris. Not a step back, but you know what I mean? He's not doing the cage. And I see a trend both ways. You know, guys are making money now doing just the jiu-jitsu super fights and things like that. And Luke is kind of transitioning because, I mean, Luke's a legitimate model. I don't think he wants to get punched in the face all the time. And there's rightfully so. And he still wants to get paid and still wants to be in the fight game. You think there's something to be said about maybe not necessarily getting in the cage and maybe taking like a super fight or something, or just doing something to stay out there to kind of say, you know what, let me do this, or let me try, you know, something else, as opposed to just getting in the cage and pounding your head.
Yeah, I think those super fights are great. I think anything that you can do that keeps you competing is so important. If that is what you want to be good at, is competing.
I just don't know what money. I know Gordon's making money, and I know Nikki's starting to make some money, and I know Luke had a good deal. I mean, I don't know what the money game is in that. I don't know. It's got to be worth your while too.
That's the thing that's crazy about this whole mixed martial art game, is there is really no money in it unless you're smart, unless you get, I mean, I'm so grateful that I made it to the UFC, because now I have that title, which it really, it's just a label. Like, there's tons of amazing fighters out in the, you know, and Bellator and World Series and Risen and One. Like, there's so many other good fighters, but the thing is, for some reason, UFC has such a good label on it, and I'm super grateful for that. So I'm always gonna be like, oh, Gina MAZANY, UFC vet, and so that's just another thing on my resume. But it's insane, because there's so many other good fighters out there.
In the self-defense game, I mean, I would think you'd make more money teaching like a really well thought out women's program for self-defense and a women's course. And there's just not a lot of those around here. Over time, you'd build probably a better business model, as opposed to taking 5 and 5s or 10 and 10s and stuff like that. I mean, I think it's just my theory, and I was talking to Eddie B about this. I think there's money when you start to get into that 25 and 25, 50 and 50 space. But that's rare air. Like Eddie even said, he goes, not a ton of guys are making that for the most part. A lot of guys are just grinding it out. But I think if you did a women's self-defense program, that would be the steady income. You know, that would be the ticket for sure. For sure. And it's funny too, a lot of times when we with fights and whatnot and the money that we make, a lot of people forget, like, we had to pay, like, I pay 10% to my coaches. Some people have to pay 10% to their gym, 10 or 20% to their manager. You got to pay everybody.
You got to pay everybody. Oh, not to mention taxes. Heck.
Yeah, you got to pay everybody. So talk to me too about Alaska. So you grew up in Alaska.
Yes, I love that place. It's
beautiful place.
Beautiful.
How did you end up in Alaska?
So my parents moved there. My mom moved from New Mexico. My dad moved from Michigan.
Were they like oil czars or something?
My mom went there to work on the pipeline, and little gangster.
Yeah.
But they actually met at this bar called Chilkoot Charlie's, which if anyone's in Alaska, you should go. It's a hoot. But yeah, they met there and lived there and had their 3 babies, and
there was big money in that pipeline.
There really was. Yeah. And I mean, it's funny because the kind of money that they made during that time was just insane. Obviously, like, but being, you know, in your early 20s and making that kind of money, you don't really have too much to show for it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course. But you're building a life, too. But it's beautiful country up there.
God,
and
it's so great.
Got to imagine it's got to be a great place to grow up. But is there high crime there?
You know, it's honestly getting a little bit worse. I think a big issue with in Alaska is that people get bored. And what do people do when they get bored?
They do drugs and party.
They do drugs and party. What comes with drugs and partying? Fighting and violence. So it's kind of like a chain effect. And that's why I always say when people are like, oh, how's Alaska? I'm like, it's amazing if you love doing outdoor stuff, or if you love, you know, hunting and fishing and camping and, you know, being okay with kind of being, you know, maybe a little I don't know. I was never really bored there, because if I wasn't on a snow machine or on a snowboard or hunting or fishing, I was training, you know. But I've just kind of always been that way. If I find an open time slot in my schedule, like, I'm going to fill it with something. But a lot of times people will just be like, oh, it's boring, I'm just going to sit here and smoke a lot of pot. And
tons of pot. Now, did you hunt and fish at all?
I did, yeah. I love fishing. Hunting, I've shot some stuff, but I'm not like super, I don't know.
Not a huntress.
Not a huntress, really. I mean, I'm down for it, and I 100% support it. And I love, like, when I moved to Seattle, that was the first time I ever bought beef, because my dad always hunted. So we always had, you know, moose and caribou in our freezer, and salmon and halibut, and it was always like fresh, and it's so good. I should have brought you guys some canned salmon.
But you know what? You know what's crazy? You bring this up, because I've said this since I've moved here, and I was in Montana before. I so miss Boston and Miami because the fresh seafood.
Dude.
I'm always like, the seafood here does not taste, unless you go like to a nice restaurant. The seafood here is not like home. It's not like Boston at all. It's not.
I'm such a diva when it comes to seafood. I'm like, but it's because like I'm used to going and catching it and then filleting it.
It was still alive.
Yeah, and eating it. But now it's like, this is a farmed fish, and it's been frozen and unfrozen. It's just, it's a mess.
It's depressing.
It is. It really is.
It's super depressing. But I mean, it's got to be super fun to grow up that way and just participate in all the outdoor stuff. And you have a little bit of that here. You have a good outdoor scene here. Not a great one, but it's not the same. You still have the Strip, and you have a little bit more. It's more of a city atmosphere, I would say, here than almost anywhere else.
Right.
In you know, between Arizona and New Mexico here, you have a little bit more of a city feel, I think, in Vegas. But it's got to be fun to just be out here and be in the Mecca, you know, training and participating in this. Do you think you'll live out here forever?
Probably not forever. I definitely want to buy a house out here, and just so we have some. Sorry, microphone. Okay. Just so we have something out here, just because it is such a growing city. We got season Raiders tickets, things, and I mean, like, there's still a base in Vegas. Forever home, probably not. I kind of want to live in the middle of the woods one day and have like a farm and chickens and goats and all that fun stuff.
That's like Rob Bailey. When we had Rob Bailey in here, he's got more chickens. He had a problem with one of his goats actually recently. One of the goats was sick, so that was a little weird.
They have all sorts of creatures.
Yeah, they have all kinds of creatures.
Rob
and Dana were my neighbors up in Montana, so it was really funny. They have like a whole farm and all kinds of creatures. And then he told that crazy story, Q. Remember about being like attacked by Dana, almost being attacked by a puma or something?
Yeah.
It was bananas. Yeah, he almost had to bust out the gat and take out the whole forest.
You know what's so funny? You bring up those two is after I graduated from graphic design school, I got a job at this Facebook gaming company, blah blah. You know, it was like the normal 9 to 5, 401k benefit, like all that fun stuff if you're an adult. But I honestly, when I was working, I'd always listen or read or watch any of Dana and Rob's anything that they had out there, and it was kind of near the beginning. This is about, how long ago is this? Maybe like 7 years ago.
Right.
So they were just, getting cracking.
Starting Flag Nor Fail and everything. Yeah.
And like, it was right after Dana won her Miss Olympia and all that kind of fun stuff. And honestly, like she really motivated me a ton. Like, and there's not.
Dana's a fucking savage.
She's a savage, and I honestly she had her first Miss Olympia workout book. It's actually in my glove box. I found it after I got hit by a car yesterday.
Oh my God.
But I found it yesterday, and it brings me back to like when I remember sitting at my desk and like watching their stuff and being like, I can do whatever, if I put my mind to it. And they really, honestly, they sent a message, and I blame them partially for me moving out here and like being ballsy. And definitely some of my
Oh my
inspiration.
God, I'll have to tell.
What a nerd, huh?
I'll tell Rob. I'll be like, I just had someone in here. She sold everything and moved to Vegas because of you. And
Well, and I saw him at the PI. It was so stupid. I was getting work done and I was sitting there, and then he walked in and he was grabbing something, and I was like, oh, is that Rob Bailey? And my boyfriend saw me get all red, and I was like, oh, I'm just.
It must have been when he did the show. Was it recently? 'Cause I just had him in.
It must have been, yeah. They were.
Yeah,
I think
I
they
just
were
had him
working
in.
out in there, but.
Yeah, I had him in not long ago. It was a few weeks ago, maybe maybe a month ago. I'm not sure he was in. Yeah, it was about that.
I
Yeah,
borderline fangirl, and I don't fangirl very often. Like,
yeah. Rob's a trip. I mean, he I can't thank him enough. He made a point to come out here for a day and turn around and spend some time with us, and he's awesome. He's a super motivated guy, and he started out like working at like Costco. Like, it's crazy, his story. It's absolutely bananas, but.
they started at such a small thing, and like seeing how big. Like, I remember when they were first selling their stuff, and they would we're only gonna send out 100 sweatshirts that are custom this and that, and now there's no way they could do. I mean, that's just like they're so big now, and it's just it's so cool to see the growth.
I think they got a piece of that Built company too with Joey Firestone. Built drinks we have in the studio, but yeah, he's an awesome guy and a great guy to look up to for motivation. Who else do you look at for motivation? Who else drives you?
Honestly, and it's so nerdy because I'm friends with her now. Kat Zingano. She, like, her story is just 100%. Like, she is a gangster badass chick. Like, all the shit that she went through.
Right.
And is still like making sure that she's an awesome mom and that she's an awesome fighter and just an awesome female role model. I look up to her so much, and every time she's been in town, like, we've spent time together. And
I'm trying to get her back out here. That's the hard part, is getting her out here now, because she's kind of settling into Cali, and getting her back out this way, because I'd love to get her on. She is a badass, and she's one of the originals.
She's an OG for sure. Like, the fight between her and Misha was is probably one of my favorite fights I've ever seen. It was just such an epic, like, both these girls were just digging deep to fight. I love, like, those are my favorite kind of fights.
And she's got 3 fights with one now. I think it's a 3-fight deal.
She's with Bellator now.
Bellator, sorry.
Yeah,
Bellator.
which I'm so grateful for her. I'm just so thankful that she's still going, because I love watching Kat fight. She's a special kind of fighter. Like, a lot of people don't know, like, she beat Amanda, oh my gosh, 135 champ UFC.
Nunez?
Amanda Nunez. Like, that fight between them, like, that was crazy. I think the first round she wasn't doing very well. The second round she's like came back with a vengeance, and I just love seeing that. She's savage.
Yeah, she's a trip, and there's no doubt about it. She's definitely one of the OGs. Who else? Anyone else?
Heck.
Outside of the UFC, maybe.
Outside of the UFC. Honestly, like, my brother was a huge inspiration to me. He did he moved out to Vegas. He fought, and then he got, like, his whole face pretty much broken, and he fought in Canada, so there was no medical for him. So he went back home to Alaska. Luckily one of our buddies was an eye surgeon and fixed his orbital, and he worked and paid off all of his debt. And then after that, he saved up his money and did the same thing, where he moved down to Vegas. And I was like, wow, like, he did it, I can do it. And so he was a huge inspiration. But now he's living the dream, working at True Fusion and, like, teaching pretty girls how to lift weights.
I'm sure at that place, of course. Yeah. It's crazy, because we find motivation in crazy places, and I never thought you would have said Dana and Rob, but they are two people, and I was glad we had Rob in. I'll have Dana in at some point, but having them in and hearing their story, that's part of, like, one of the driving forces behind this podcast and doing this. I wanted to just hear people's story, and people that are involved in not just the self-defense community, the MMA community, the action sports community, and people that genuinely get excited to go out and train and participate in training. And you can't find two better people than them. You brought up Kat, and someone who's been at it for years, and just they show you that you can do it over a long period of time if you put your mind to it and you have a good business plan. And I was talking about this with Coach Casey the other day. There's just not enough fighters and people out there that sit down at the end of every year and they say, let me write down my goals for 2020 and let me write down my business plan. Like Case was saying the other day, he was like, I just love a fighter that's on the ball and will sit and map out and lay out their plan for the year and will present it to me.
It's such a unique thing because that is something that we're not taught. Like a lot of people have to remember that fighters come from like however people end up fighting, wherever they came from, whatever their background is. Like maybe they're just tough, or maybe they're a really good jiu-jitsu guy, maybe they're a really good boxer. But none of that in that training do they teach you about like signing up for an LLC or doing your taxes or what you're going to do. Or once you do get, you know, your first UFC paycheck, say you make 12 and 12, that's $24,000 with, you know, the 1,500 from Reebok, you know, and then, then you got to take this percentage out, and you're left with what, like, you know, 15 grand maybe. I don't know. And then you're like, then what do you do with that? And then everyone says to invest it, but then really it's such a,
you don't know how long you'll go between fights.
100%. Like after my first one in the UFC, I didn't fight again for another 9 months. And that was just such that sucked because I was like very motivated to keep going. Of course I kept training, kept going, but it's, you know, like by the end of it, I had to work at the bar a little bit again. You know, cause it's just people are like, oh, you make so much money, but like really it's not, we have to live off of our paycheck. So it's so hard to be responsible in that sense. And if I knew what I know now, like 10 years ago, I mean, it'd be so I think that's also a program that I wish that the UFC or some fight promotion could adapt to, is like educating the fighters on what to do, because a lot of times people don't know. Like,
yeah, I've talked about this with like Matt Brown and Ben and a bunch of guys. I think the UFC is still very young. Like we were talking about this the other day. The UFC started in 93. It's still a very young organization. It really didn't hit its stride till 2003, 2005, where it started to get its legs underneath it. The PI is still brand new. And I think Forrest is trying to get a lot of good programs implemented. I think he's listening to the fighters and in the role that he plays there. And I think that they will get some things in place, but they definitely should have, like the NFL has and other places, like a rookie orientation, something that educates the guys. And it's just hard because you don't have a huge pool of veterans yet, because it's still a relatively newer org where they don't have those things in place. But putting those things in place and making sure that those things are there for the fighters isn't easy. And it's the same in anything. I mean, if you start a self-defense program, like I know tons of shooting instructors and guys on the range, they start a business. There's only so many hours in the day. There's only so much time in the day. They don't know how to make money in it, and they're like trying to make money on the range. It's like trying to make money as a fitness instructor. And there's only so many hours in the day, so much you can charge people. So you have to have your hand in so many things that will make you money while you sleep. And
100%.
And if you don't have, in my opinion, at least, and I've talked about this with Kat, it sounds like if you have to have your hand in at least 2 or 3 things that make you money while you're sleeping. And it has to be something, whether it's a website, whether it's, like I said this to someone the other day, like there's not one woman's website that dedicates itself towards MMA gear. And I'm like, the first woman, I talked about this with Kat openly, there's the first woman that comes in and actually does a good website, they're going to kill it.
Yeah.
They're going to absolutely kill it. But it's going to take someone who steps in with that business acumen that you're talking about and actually raises the bar. And unfortunately, in the fight game, you have a huge crop of people that are just happy to be there, and they're kind of fighting and they're going through the motions, and they're not taking enough time to build a business around it. And that's something Eddie B and I talked about. That's something Casey and I talked about. And there's only so much time in the day, and you can only tell people or give people so much advice, because I'm no expert and I don't know, but I just I've sat with enough now to kind of get a feel for it. And I think it's still so wide open.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Yeah, there's so much.
There's just so much that could be done, and there's just so much in that space. Now, going forward, we got UFC 245 coming up. Tim has a quick turnaround.
Yep.
What fights do you like coming up? I know Connor's jumping back in the scene. You have John Jones scheduled to defend again. Amanda Nunes actually has her big fight on the 245 card. You have that's a sick card. You have Colby on that card. You have Matt and Ben obviously on that card. And it's just, that's going to be one of those cards that's just going to be exciting. Fight in, fight out. Max is on it. I mean, how do you see it all shaking out between now and the end of the year?
You know, I'm going to be honest. I am a fan of fighting, but I'm not like a huge like UFC fan. Only like the people that I know. Like obviously, I'm super excited for Jessica's fight. She'll be fighting December 14th, I believe.
Yeah, she's on 245.
245.
Yeah, she messaged me something about donuts. She's
Donuts.
yeah,
please.
she's looking to get all whacked out after her weigh-in.
Heck
So
yeah.
you know, but I think it's just going to be a fun card, and I think that's going to be a really good one. That's going to lead into Connor, and then you have John Jones. So there's so many cool fights coming up, and I think that's only going to help and enhance what the UFC's trying to do. But I'm really excited too to see what ESPN Plus is doing and driving some of these different types of fights, like the Polaris fight and like some of the other super fights that we see coming on. And I think it just creates more opportunity for you guys to get out there and try different things, make money, headline things,
Right.
and participate in all these different spaces. It's just going to come down to what you want to do, where you want to do it, and where you want to put your flag in the sand and kind of say, I want to get into this space, and I want to make money here, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. So you have to kind of figure out and weed through the weeds a little bit
Right.
and find your opportunity. But
Yeah,
there's so much.
there's so much.
it's just
the politics are just so, I don't know, because they see me every day at the PI, and I always, I'm like, I'm ready if you guys, like, I'll message Mitch, Mick, the matchmaker, and be like, hey, if you guys need a short notice, like, I'll be ready.
Yeah, I mean,
wait in 2 weeks. Like,
are you going to wait it out, you think, or after the first of the year kind of start to make a decision or formulate a decision?
I mean, I'm already talking to my manager and saying that, like, hey, if there's a fight at 135, like, let me know. I can make weight in 2 weeks. I'll be ready in like, I'm ready. I'm just waiting for the call, which sucks. And that's the thing that I don't like about fighting, is that it's, people, the one question people always ask is like, oh, when's your next fight? And we really don't know, unfortunately. And it sucks that we can't, like, schedule anything. It's kind of all up in the air. And a lot of times, like, the smaller fight promotions, like, they'll kind of screw you over quite a bit. So I'm just, I would like to fight as soon as possible, but it's just, sometimes I just have to be patient. And right now I think it's one of those times where I'm like, I just got to be patient. But I'm super grateful because Tim has a fight. And so, like I said, I put a lot of time in helping with his camp and, like, cooking all his food and making sure, he's got all of the stuff he needs so that he can train hard and, feel good for his fight. And I loved it. I don't mind I love doing that kind of stuff. So
yeah, the prep and everything that goes into it, especially when you're trying to make weight, it helps to have a second person there to kind of go through it with you and someone who's been through it.
Understand.
Now with Tim's fight coming up, at some point we'll get Tim on. It's got to be exciting. It seems he always has, like, these quick turnarounds, and he's thrown into the mix of everything. What's his plan, and kind of where do you see it going for him?
Well, with his last fight, he blew his knee out about almost 2 years ago. And so he took a long year off after the surgery and stuff and getting back, to normal. And he had a scheduled fight to fight Figueroa. And I know there has been some people kind of talking shit about him having a quick turnaround, and that all really bothers me because it's like, he deserves it. He has over 14 fights in the UFC. Like, he's a legend, and when he first got signed to the UFC, he fought top 10 opponents his first 4 fights. And if you watch some of them, a lot of them I thought he won. And I don't know, it's just kind of shitty because he deserves this kind of treatment. In my opinion, he's paved the road for a lot of the guys, and I think he's kept light on the 125 division, because if anyone has seen Tim Elliot fight, he's a very exciting fighter. He will never have a boring fight. And, like, sometimes, and, like, his last fight, shit happens. Like, if anybody saw the stats, like,
oh, sure,
he was beating his ass, and then he got caught, and that's just what happens in this game, and that's the hardest part about it. And with this game, you just never know. Like, anything can happen. Like, John Jones can get, like, everyone thinks that John Jones is unstoppable, or McGregor. Like, anyone can get clipped. Anyone can get caught in a submission. Like, we're all insane, great athletes, and there are no easy fights anymore. You can always like, oh, there's a good fight for you, but there are no easy fights. If it just, I don't know. But yeah, I'm so excited for his fight, and I honestly do think this is a good one. This guy's tough. He's undefeated. And that's one thing I love about his fights, is that he chooses people that people don't want to fight, because Tim will see the holes in his game.
It's crazy when I see you both at open mat and stuff and hanging out.
Choking each other.
Yeah, you guys have so much fun. Who wins in a fight, you or him?
Oh, he does. He's so good. I mean, I don't know. I'm a strong bear, and, like, maybe I'll sit down. Him and I are so opposite, where, like, I'm like a sit down on my punches and, like, stand and bang, and he's like, by that time he's already on my back taking me down. I don't know. our styles are both so different. Which
He likes
I
to
think
take over the mat. Like when he's on open mat, he's like John Travolta in fucking Saturday Night
He
Fever.
really
It's like I'm
is.
like I ain't rolling. Like this is gonna get crazy. I'll get clipped. But he's he's exciting to watch. I love watching the smaller guys because they're so technical and they're flying around. Watching two big guys, it's like watching two water buffaloes.
Cute.
You know? Yeah, it's awful. So. Yeah, I mean he's super fun to watch and even super fun at open mat, especially with the right opponent. Just seeing him kind of grapple and move around. He's just so quick and I love that. I mean I think that's high energy. But you guys have so much fun and I'd love to see like a scrap between the two of you. You know, down at the gym we could like make it like an open
super fight.
yeah, like a super fight. We could broadcast. I actually joked with Coach about that. I'm like we should do more like in gym super fights and like people should come around and we should hang out. I mean, it is Vegas. Can we gamble on it maybe?
Right.
You know, can we put some money down on it? Be fun. But I think it would be it's super exciting to live and have someone around you that's going through the same things that you're going through and battling the way that you're battling. And it's easier to have the conversations of like, geez, I'm just not having a good day, or
Right.
you know, my meals are off, or I'm not coming in at weight, or I just don't feel. It's got to make life so much easier.
Dude, so much easier. And that's the thing too, is like the fight game can be so stressful and so hard and so like honestly emotional because you work like a lot of people don't understand this, but have you ever like worked your damn ass off? Like literally like worked your fucking can I cuss?
Mm-hmm.
Worked your fucking ass off and then not succeed? Like that happens to fighters 50% of the time because one person's got to win, one person's got to lose.
Q, you sabotaged us. We went in the dark. We had a power bill. No. So the lights typically do go off sometimes because we have them set to motion and we were a little too still.
Just have to do this every once in a while.
Every now and then. So yeah, no, it's fun. It's just fun watching you guys, and you're unique because there's not a lot of. At least I haven't seen a lot of couples around here that are fighters.
We had to like figure it out, like how, because Tim's a really good coach too, but I don't. He has to coach me in a particular way because it's easy to. You know, to be like, don't tell me what to do, and you know.
Well, no wife listens to the husband, and no husband listens to the wife.
Well,
no
because I'm
girlfriend
always
listens.
right.
Yeah, it's brutal. Like you could tell your girlfriend the sky's blue, and if you're the boyfriend, you're wrong.
Oh yeah.
It's no matter what, you'll almost never win. So it's one of those things. But you know, you guys have a lot of fun, and you can genuinely see that in everything you do. I mean, I've never not seen either of you really with a smile. So that tells me a lot about a relationship and just seeing how fun you guys are around each other and enjoying the open mat. But I'm looking forward to everything, and I'm looking forward to everything you guys have going on and coming up, and the decisions you make coming up. And I know you're being a little cute about it, but you are waiting for the next fight and where that's going to go. But I think the phone will be ringing soon, and if it's not ringing already, and I know you're kind of being a little sheepish about it because you don't know where it'll go, and that's good. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It gives you time to train, time to refocus, and time to get your arms around things, and especially your business and what you want to do in 2020. But I definitely think you should do something like a women's program because I think a coach would jump all over that immediately.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something you can get a lot of steam behind very, very easily. I genuinely mean that, Gina. I think you'd murder it with that, and it'd be exciting to see around here because nobody's doing it.
I'm just so much more motivated to do something if I know it's going to help somebody or make someone happy, or I don't know. I really kind of hated working at the bar in the sense that like I hated that I was contributing to people's like bad habits and like wanted them to come in for their bad or maybe good habits. I don't know. But having someone like exercise or like learn something that's going to better their life in the future is just so much more of a motivator to me.
There's nothing wrong with the booze.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with booze. I mean, hell, you go.
Yeah, if somebody wants to go out and get all lubed up and put some tips in your pocket, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, for sure.
But
I just like after I leave the bar, I would go and go train and stuff, and it's just such a different. I don't know. It's weird. I love working at the bar because I love talking to people and getting to know people, but there's just something special about like helping someone like improve their life. Because when people come to the bar, I'm like, man, I don't know why I'm just like so fat and I'm sad and. Like, well, just put down the cheeseburger and.
Yeah, there's definitely a depressing component to regular trips to the bar room. I mean, for sure. I mean, I don't drink and I don't party, but I'm also the lamest guy in the room. But I'm just that way. But if you can find a way to get from A to B, to put the puzzle pieces together to pursue your dream, which is what you're doing, that's everything. And if you can do things that don't feel like work and they still make you money, that's living the dream, right?
Right.
So,
well, it's when you're talking, you mentioned earlier, I was going to say this about with Tim and I, one thing that we've been getting, I mean, because there's more of a motivation to like, you know, be secure with our family. And it's not like fighting when we're in our early 20s where we're like, oh, fuck it. Like, you know, I'll fight we have, you know, Tim has a 4-year-old and, you know, she's with us most of the time. So like that, having a stable family is important. But what I was gonna say is win or lose, I want us to enjoy the process. And I feel like so many people find themselves so miserable in the process of getting ready for a fight where they're like running on the treadmill 4 miles a day every day and like eating boring food every day. Like I enjoy
not living their best life.
And the thing is like through this process, because there's a good chance you could do everything that they say by the book and do like, you know, eat your fucking chicken out of your plastic thing and, you know, have it taste crappy and then run and have, I don't know, but like at least enjoy the process. And that's one thing, especially with Tim's quick turnaround, is that I want us to enjoy the process, and it's going to be hard and it's always hard. But in the meantime, like I'm going to make it as enjoyable as possible, because why in the hell we do this?
And live in the moment.
Live in the moment. Absolutely.
And live in the moment and enjoy it for what it is. And that's all you can do, because you never know what's going to happen, because you're, living proof that living in the moment is important, because just the other day you were almost T-boned.
Oh,
you know, I mean, I got a call and Gina was in a car accident, and I was like, well, you don't have to come in, but she still made it here.
I'm here.
She still made it here, you know?
We have one car now.
They're down to one car. How will they survive? You know,
Oh.
somewhere there's like a family that would kill to have one car. But
Right?
here we
Isn't
are
that
in
crazy?
America. One
First
car.
world problems for real.
Yeah, exactly.
It's such shit.
So
It's like,
I am pumped that you came in. I'm excited.
I'm grateful that you guys had me on here.
Yeah, this is awesome. And catching up with you and kind of seeing where things go, because I know you were kind of figuring it out and seeing what you had going on and kind of figuring out what the next steps were. So it's super fun to have you down here and have you spend some time with us and catch up and just kind of see where things go with you. I want to, at some point, I want to have you back on when you get things rolling into the next direction, and especially when you start a women's program, because I think that's going to be something to talk about.
Need some purse snatchers.
Yeah, Q and I are down 1 and 2 for purse snatchers, for sure. I'm in. But I definitely want to thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
I want to let everyone know where they can find you and look you up, whether it's IG, YouTube, whatever you're pushing, and thank any sponsors.
You can find me on Instagram or Twitter at Gina Danger AK.
There she is.
0.9. And then thank you to my sponsors. Onnit has been an awesome.
They're great.
Yeah, awesome supplement company. They're so great. They've been so good to me. They've had me since before I got signed to the UFC. And then also thank you to Laura's Lean. They send me awesome, delicious, antibiotic-free meat, which is very important to me. Oh gosh, who else? I'm so bad at this. Laura's Lean, Onnit.
The gym.
The gym, Extreme Couture, 10th Planet.
Yeah.
All the above.
And how can people reach you if they have any questions? What's the best way?
Hit me, slide in my DMs on the Instagram.
Sliding into the DM where all the creepers lie.
They do. It's real.
What's the creepiest DM you ever got?
It's always about feet. And the thing I hate about the feet thing is like my feet are busted. I grew up figure skating and doing ballet, and like my toes are broken, and I've had multiple surgeries on my feet. Like my feet are so ugly.
Why don't people hit me up for my feet, Q?
There's actually, you might be on there.
Story? Come
Seriously.
On.
What's the single craziest story?
Oh, God.
Give us one. We ask every female this. Give us a crazy
Come
DM.
on.
I'm trying to think.
Dirty underwear.
For sure. Honestly, recently, I tried to sell my shin pads, and it got too weird. Like, I had these old shin pads that were just stinky and sweaty. But that's a thing. When I was working at the bar, we had porn star karaoke. So a lot of the porn star and like fetish community would come in and like drink, and they're all like normal people, whatever.
What bar was this again?
Paradise Pub. Paradise Pub. They're great. That's like that bar kind of, yeah. The porn star karaoke isn't there anymore, but you can Google them on Twitter.
Q just canceled this whole weekend.
But they're still there. But I was wearing, those Tom shoes.
Yeah.
And I didn't wear socks with them. Those were specifically my bar shoes. So I'd wear them, sweating them, spill booze on them. They were like disgusting. And then there is a foot fetish fellow there, and he offered me $250 for my shoes.
Sold.
Yeah. So
was it Taylor that the guy said he wanted her to pee on him?
Was it? I think that was somebody else. I think Taylor was he wanted to sniff her armpits after she worked out.
Oh yeah, they're like, oh, can I smell your feet?
Armpits and mail that to
armpits.
Him.
Yeah, it's so weird.
And
or
then
like
one girl that got jail mail. I was like, what?
They'll send. I've had requests to like work out and send my dirty socks. Obviously dirty underwear.
That money.
Oh God, it's just so, I don't know. And I should. I really should. I should jump on this opportunity. My stinky feet. So weird.
You absolutely take
have you heard of Wiki Feet?
Fuck is Wiki Feet?
Oh my God, Google that. If you know, it's literally a site of like foot fetish of famous people or people who are in the light, I guess. I think
I can't get in it. I'm locked out. My computer just melted.
Oh, you're missing out.
Call Rory. It's porn. They're blocked. They're blocked.
But it's Wiki Feet and like.
Oh my God, it's real, but I am blocked. Like I can't get in.
Totally blocked.
It's like a thing.
Oh well, it's a thing. But my feet are rated 3.5 stars. How embarrassing.
That's amazing.
But they're so ugly. I don't know. So, yeah, there's so much foot fetish out there.
I'm waiting for someone to say like they wanted like a chunk of my hair, Q. Like I don't know what I would offer anyone, like a bit muffin.
A bit muffin? What's a bit muffin?
Like I bite a muffin and mail it to them, or a donut.
Oh,
like I don't know what somebody
muffin.
want, like a half-eaten freaking cereal bowl or something. I don't know. I have to think of something.
Send it in a Tupperware.
Some type of campaign. But yeah, the DM thing with chicks is out of control. It's funny. We ask everyone this, and we get all kinds of crazy answers.
I'll get like weird stuff where I had this one guy for a while, and he would
Q she was stringing him along. He's like, I got hang out in the DM.
I totally forgot about this one. He would like, hey, you know how you have like your normal DMs, and you have like the blacklist DMs where like, who are these people? That in that section, this fella would
he kept going.
Just randomly message me pictures of him with his shirt off. It was like, just got done with a workout. And he was like on the heavier side, and he'd be like, just got done with my workout.
Like, you ever seen anything like, you look like Q. You ever seen anything like this before, honey?
And then like doing from the side, like losing a lot of weight. But I would never respond to him, but he probably sent me like 6 or 7 pictures, and it was just like weird, creepy, sweaty. Like,
you ever let Tim go in and answer?
No, I mean, Tim is the best like answering to, I don't know if you ever pay attention someday on like the shit he talks on the interwebs. Like he's so good at dealing with like haters. And
I do the secretary. Well, see, I'm not the only on my social media. I have other people on it, but like I try to like just I don't have the time. It's just the bandwidth to go through everything. But yeah, it's funny because you got to be careful, man. There's stalkers out there, and that's one of the things that Kat has been talking to me about. That's why she's so like nuts about self-defense and taking care of herself, because there's real crazies out there. She has legit stalkers.
Yeah, I've heard. It's awful.
Yeah.
I had one actually at my that came to my. That's actually why I initially stopped working at the bar, because he found me at the bar, and he
was like, "Give me them shoes, honey."
He was a big guy too, and he came in and like threatened me and said that he wanted to beat the shit out of him. And mind you, he could. He was a 6'3" grown man, and there's no reason why he couldn't just. I mean, I'm 150 pounds, 5'6" on a good day.
He was like, "Honey, give me your dirty drawers."
Right? No, but he wanted to like. He told me, he's like, I want to beat the shit out of you, blah blah blah. And I like called.
Is that a thing? That's
a thing. That's like a real fetish. Is like being like dominant type thing. And the fucked up thing is like I wasn't able to do anything about it. Like I kept getting like I had to block. It's still on my phone. Like I have like 7 or 8 numbers that he erased and like kept calling and kept and actually one day I was like, all right, fine, come to my gym, blah blah blah, like I'll be here at this time.
And then you have a hit squad of pipe hitters waiting.
I did. And I roll in the gym all panicky, and I was like, hey guys, this is happening. Like told my coaches, my buddy Justin Jeans. I was like,
did he show?
He didn't show, which was super annoying. And then he kept harassing me, and then eventually it died down. But it just sucks. It's just such an uncomfortable thing, and I'm like, I don't make enough money to be dealing with this shit. Like I don't like this sucks. Like leave me harass somebody who can actually get some protection, or harass somebody that someone would actually care. Like, because I called the cops and they couldn't do shit, and I understand like it is what it is. But I was genuinely threatened for my life. Like I hated walking to my car.
I will give you a 100% foolproof method. The next time someone slides into the DM and they're like, "Hey baby, what are you doing?" You send them a picture of Q, and they'll never slide in the DM again.
With donut sprinkles all over his chest.
You send them a picture of Q, like a bowl of toilet bowl full of shit or something. You know what
hell.
I mean? Oh hell, that would be fucking nuts.
But there are a lot of weirdos out there.
Of course there are.
There's just.
We digress.
CCW.
Oh, it's amazing.
Oh.
So anyway, we've gone an hour. It's so much.
Power hour.
I loved having you on. This is so much fun. So we got to go eat Jessie Rae's. We got to do a few things around here, but I loved having you on.
Yeah, it was great having me.
A lot of fun.
Thanks.
So much fun. So slide into her DM, but slide in appropriate. She is going to be selling the laundered clothing, so hit her up for prices. Socks. We'll keep it clean. Socks, old shirts.
Sports bras, maybe.
Used shoes.
Used shoes. Yeah,
Shin
shoes. Let's do
guards.
shoes.
Sports bra.
Yeah.
We're gonna start the bidding at $200. So everyone out there that's interested, slide into the DM. On another note, I want to thank everyone. Thank everyone at KVAR. I want to thank Q. I want to thank Rory. I want to thank Marcy, and of course the one and only Gina Dane.
Thank you guys.
So I appreciate it, Q.